Hey guys, how you going? This is BillyEatWorld again. Thanks for stopping by, and just remember, if you like what you see, don't forget to hit that like button. Also, feel free to take a look at some of my other Battlefield 4 videos if you like. You can find them all in a playlist in the description down below. But anyway, today we're going to be taking a look at another theme loadout for BF4, this time inspired by the New Zealand SAS. And this theme was suggested by Griffin6 in the comments of my last loadout video, so thanks heaps for the idea, man, and I hope I do it justice for you. If any of you other guys have a theme you'd like me to check out, well, feel free to leave it in the comments section below. But just remember, I don't have time to check out every single loadout, so make sure you come up with something fun and unique, and there's a good chance I'll give it a go. Now, to kick off, the New Zealand Special Air Service, or NZSAS for short, is the Tier 1 Special Operations Unit of the New Zealand military. And as you can probably already tell from the name, they're based on the model of the British SAS and still follow many of their traditions to this day. The NZSAS were formed over a decade later than their British counterparts though, in 1955, around the same time as the Australian SAS are. But even so, this still makes them a fairly old unit in comparison to a lot of SOF groups around the world, which largely began to appear from the 1970s onwards. Like most Tier 1 units, the NZSAS is highly classified, so we don't have a lot of details about their organisation or operation. But what we do know is that they're classed as a regiment, which is usually made up of anywhere between 1,000 to 2,000 men. It wasn't until 2013 that they were actually considered a regiment though, and before this they were actually known as the NZSAS Squadron, and later the NZSAS Group. But in any case, regardless of their total strength, it's safe to assume that like their British and Australian counterparts, they operate in small teams of as little as 4 men. Now, speaking of their British and Australian allies, like I said, these units are very similar to each other, and they all undertake similar sorts of roles. For example, the SAS in general have always been traditionally known for specialising in reconnaissance and direct action missions. Also, with the rise in global terror attacks in recent decades, counter-terrorism has become another important role for SAS units. And the NZSAS is no exception. In fact, they've even been given the responsibility of training police CT units like the New Zealand Special Tactics Group. Due to the fact that these roles are so dangerous and often very sensitive, in the tradition of the British SAS they recruit only the best of the best. And this means that applicants need to pass a grueling selection process that in itself can be dangerous and even life-threatening. For example, to even pass the course, candidates need to finish a 200-kilometre hike with a 45-kilo pack in less than 60 hours, which on its own is hard enough before you even take into consideration that during the process, applicants are subjected to a number of other tactics designed to break their morale. Now, at the end of this process, those that do make it through are clearly as tough as they come, but it was in Afghanistan that a true legend of the NZSAS emerged, Corporal Willie Apiata. While on patrol sometime in 2004, Willie's troop was surprised at night by enemy fighters, who managed to disable his vehicle and seriously wound a trooper. Despite being pinned down, it was obvious to Willie that the wounded soldier was deteriorating fast and would need to be extracted ASAP. So, with complete disregard for his own life, Willie stood up and carried the soldier across 70 metres of open ground to safety before rejoining the counterattack. For this action, Willie became the first New Zealander to receive the Victoria Cross since World War II. And in addition to this, 3 other SAS troopers who took part in this engagement also received various awards for bravery. For their service in Afghanistan in general, the New Zealand SAS also received the United States Navy Presidential Unit Citation, which makes them one of only 6 foreign units to receive this honour during the conflict, which includes units like the Australian SASR and the Canadian JTF-2. But anyway, as for my loadout, well, once again, the standard carbine of the NZSAS is the M4, which I've done in this series about 100 times before. So instead, I decided to run with the M249, which is also known as the FN Mini-Me, or the C9 in the New Zealand Army. I also decided to run with the Compact 45, which I think is the closest thing to the HK USP used by the NZSAS. And to round out this loadout, I decided to go with the classic ammo box and C4 combo, as well as the M67 frag grenades and the defensive perk. As for attachments, well, to be honest, there's not many things I love more in the M249 than the suppressor and the EOTech holo sight. And with this alone, I think it'd be fine, but I also decided to throw an attack light for the SOF look and a vert grip to make it a bit more accurate on the move. On the Compact 45, well, once again, I didn't use any fancy optics, but I did decide to run with a ghost ring and a suppressor. So all in all, I think this is a pretty unique setup, but most importantly, it's a great loadout for flanking around and doing as much damage as possible without being seen. So bearing all of this in mind, how did it actually perform in game? Well, I've got to admit, it actually wasn't that bad. And that's not something I usually say when I'm making these videos because realistic setups generally aren't that good in game. That being said, the M249 isn't the most accurate weapon in the game and it doesn't do the most damage, but it does have a massive 200 round capacity. And that means if you can get yourself into a good flanking position, you've got enough rounds to drop a half a dozen guys or more before they even notice. The Compact 45 is also a gun I'm really starting to like, and although I'd say it's not really as good as the M1911, it's definitely a solid choice. But that being said, it doesn't really matter anyway because you won't find the need to use it that often when you're running with an LMG like the M249. As for the C4 and the ammo box, well, I don't think much needs to be said, but one thing I will say is that I think they work very well with suppressed weapons. And that's because number one, you'll probably live longer and will eventually need an ammo refill, and number two, you'll probably be more likely to be able to sneak into a good position to use the C4 effectively. So anyway, to finish up, I guess all that needs to be said about this setup is that it's just generally a fun all-round loadout. And I've got to admit, that's probably got a lot to do with it being less realistic than usual, but it kind of had to be this way because the NZSAS is so secret. So with that being said, if you're looking to roleplay the NZSAS to a T, feel free to let me know if you find anything in your research that's different to what you see here. But for anyone else who just wants to try out a solid stealth support loadout, I definitely recommend giving this one a try because it was a lot of fun. But anyway guys, that just about wraps up this video, so let me know what you think in the comments section below, and as always, if you like what you see, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Also check out the links in the description below if you want to see any more of my videos, or if you want to support my channel on Patreon, and until next time, see you later, and have a good one.